The SNP wants 16-year-olds to be able to become MSPs, 16-year-old members of the Scottish Parliament. Right, well, let's just have a think about that. Let's go back to the beginning. First of all, the SNP has already introduced votes for 16-year-olds. Now, as far as I can see, it's quite clear they're thinking on that. They've got control of the education system, and basically it's an indoctrination system. Pupils are inducted into a sort of left-wing equality, equity, diversity, inclusion, feminist, LGBT, lots of the T, climate change, critical race theory, white privilege, all this sort of thing. So they're indoctrinated into this sort of left-wing progressive ideology. And then before they've even left school, they can then vote. And the SNP thinks, oh, this is just perfect. The only slight flaw in the plan, from the SNP perspective, is that they turn the young people into green voters. The indoctrination is so extreme that instead of voting for SNP as intended, they end up voting for Green, the Green Party, in ever increasing numbers. Now, they might see that as a flaw in the plan. They might see that as actually quite good, because that plays the system in the Scottish parliamentary electoral system in order to achieve an pro-independence majority. So maybe the SNP is quite happy with pushing more and more young people towards the Green Party. But just to illustrate the way that pupils are indoctrinated and shielded from other views within schools. A few years ago, I went to an event where pupils were being used to present basically transgender ideology to other pupils, and the adults there as well. And after it, I ended up sitting next to one of the boys, I would say he was maybe 15 or 16, who had been used to present transgender ideology to the audience and to the younger pupils as well. So at the end, I just chatted to him and started asking a few questions about it. But one of the teachers realised that I was maybe being a bit challenging. I was offering something of a different perspective. So they came and whisked him away from me, as though I was, some sort of sinister character. He needed protecting from that. And that's the picture in Scottish education. The pupils need protecting from the wrong sort of opinions, and they need to hear more and more and more of the right sort of opinions. So, in terms of voting at 16, do some 16-year-olds have more understanding of politics than some 40-year-olds? Well, yes, definitely. But you've got to draw the line somewhere. In general, 16-year-olds don't have a particularly deep understanding of politics, but there's more to it than that. More important than that is life experience. How much life experience have they had? How many different perspectives have they encountered? How much responsibility do they have? And another vital thing as well for 16-year-olds voting is 16-year-olds generally haven't got very much money, and they're reliant on their parents for funding most things. So they're very susceptible to bribes from the government. And you can see the SNP playing this absolutely to the maximum extent, with offers of laptops in the last election. I don't know if any of them have actually been delivered. I haven't heard anyone saying they've actually got one. But they're too bribable, basically, because they're too dependent for their very small income on their parents. So the state's got too much power by offering bribes like that. All of this is a reflection of the children's rights philosophy of the Scottish Government and of all the parties in the Scottish Parliament. Now, there are some academics in the fields of children's rights who say that children should be able to vote at the point where they can understand what they're doing. So as soon as the child thinks, yep, you go along to that building and you put a cross and that sort of chooses who you want to be the leader, as soon as they've got any understanding, as soon as they express a desire to go and vote, then they should be allowed to do that. How anyone can't see that that's just wide open to corruption and undue influence, I don't know. Imagine it within the family. Dad's got 4 kids. Right, it's election day, kids. Let's all go along to this special building. You put a cross in the 3rd box down, count 1, 2, 3, put a cross there, and then we'll all go out for a nice ice cream afterwards. Does that sound fun? Oh, yeah, let's go, Dad. But then the influence of school as well is also going to be enormous as well. Schools will do things, right, children, we're going to teach you about how to vote and what the different political parties are all about. And the skew would be as you would expect. So to say, the corruption and undue influence, the potential is just enormous. But perhaps that's what the SNP wants in terms of the influence of the school. And the other aspect with giving votes to 16-year-olds is the SNP can give the message, we're the ones who gave you the vote. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't even be able to vote. Who would you like to vote for? Well, it seems a bit grateful, doesn't it? Oh, thanks very much for giving us the vote, but we're actually going to vote for someone else? Sorry, I know that's a bit like impolite and that's not really what you're expecting, but if you don't mind, could we vote for someone else? You see the psychological effect of that. It induces gratitude in the 16 and 17-year-olds. It's only a short-term effect, but the SNP normally only thinks in the short term on these things. But it will make young people more likely to vote for them. So that's voting at 16. I mean, now things have gone a very large step forward. They're talking about 16-year-old members of the Scottish Parliament and 16-year-old councillors. Now, don't forget, the SNP thinks you're not fully responsible for a crime until you're age 25, because your brain hasn't fully developed, apparently. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if your brain hasn't fully developed, then that's the time when deterrence is most important. That's the time when maybe your own mind isn't managing to help you to make good decisions, but maybe some external factor, like if you do this, you'll be in big trouble. Maybe that's the time people most need that effect, most need that input into their decision-making process. But the SNP takes the opposite view, and they think that young people who, basically, this is not me talking, this is the SNP talking, they say young people are more irresponsible. They can't control their actions as well. They can't make good decisions. They think they're the people who don't need deterrence to help guide their decision-making process. But anyway, so the trend is basically in Scotland that 12-year-olds are treated as adults in terms of decision-making, but in terms of responsibility, the age goes up and up and up. So as far as they're concerned, making 16-year-olds an MSP or a councillor, well, that's nothing, because surely 12-year-olds are the ones who can really make decisions about everything. So what's the plan from the SNP? Well, the plan to me is really, really clear. The next election, if this comes in, which looks like it is, then the next election, the SNP will select a 16-year-old in a winning seat where they are definitely going to become an MSP. And the 16-year-old or two that they select, but they'll probably be a really bright spark. And to be honest, they'll probably be cleverer than quite a lot of the MSPs. And if you watch some of the MSPs in committees, they obviously don't really know what's going on. They're not understanding the issues. It's quite embarrassing sometimes to watch. So I'm sure they can find a 16-year-old basically more intelligent, more articulate and more capable than a fair few of the MSPs. So that's, that would be possible. Then in terms of publicity, the SNP would play this as part of their appeal to young voters. Now look what we've done. We give 16-year-olds a place in the Parliament. Therefore, you should vote for us. And then this MSP, the 16-year-old MSP, will speak on behalf of young people. What young people want to see is this. Young people don't want to hear about this. Young people want to see action on this. Okay, which is completely unfair, because that person has not been appointed as the spokesperson for young people, but that's the way it will be presented. And what will they be saying on behalf of young people? Well, it'll be obvious what they're saying on behalf of young people. They will just be parroting the standard SNP lines with the packaging of this is what young people want. Now, when they do that, so they'll be criticised. People will disagree with them in the Parliament and outside the Parliament. And that will be presented as an attack on young people. You're against young people. This 16-year-old MSP will say, you obviously don't care about young people. You're rejecting the views of young people. It's an identity politics. It's a way of playing identity politics. And that will be played to the maximum by the SNP. Then in the rough and tumble of political debate, people will cry foul. How can you pick on just a school child like that? You bully. Which is totally unfair. If you don't think that they're fit to enter into this arena, then you shouldn't be bringing them into it. But having brought them in, you've got to accept what it's like. There is rough and tumble. But that won't be what will happen. There will be the claim of, oh, how could someone be so horrible to a school child? Look how upset they are. The way you disagreed with them and criticised them. That card will be played as well. What's also quite likely to happen is this 16-year-old is going to be under huge pressure, and there's quite a distinct possibility that they might crack. The stress might get to them in some way. And when that happens, they'll be portrayed as the victim of their sort of nasty bad forces in politics, picking on the poor young person. Okay? Whereas what's actually happened is this 16-year-old has been cynically used by the SNP, and then when they can't cope, which was quite foreseeable, the SNP will be saying, oh, we're trying to support them, or we're very compassionate, when actually this 16-year-old has just been exploited by the SNP for their own political ends. So there's a bit of prophecy there, isn't there? Let's see. Maybe I'll come back to this video in a few years and we'll see what's happened with the first 16-year-old MSP or two. And we'll see if my predictions have been borne out. So what's our message to 16 and 17-year-olds? Well, join the Scottish Family Party. Get involved. You could learn a bit about politics. You could gain experience in the political sphere. But I'd also say continue with your own education. Get a job, settle into that. But within the Scottish Family Party, we'd love to hear your perspectives. We'd value that. We'd love to give you opportunities to get involved in different ways, to lead groups, to speak to groups or whatever. There's opportunities we would want to get you involved. And we think that's the right induction into politics. So you would be very welcome to join the other 16 and 17-year-olds who are already involved in the party.